Within the last 2 weeks or so, we saw ESPN come out with their own top 10 players in the NBA. The rankings have caused a lot of controversy within basketball fans. Some people are in agreement with this list, others not so much. Love it or hate it, you gotta admit, anyone on this list is in pretty elite company. In 2022, the NBA has a very stacked list of their 10 best players. But does 2022 have the best top 10 ever? Or were there just other better top 10s from other years? How does the 2022 top 10 players compare to years prior? Are we way better now, or have we declined over years? Well, in today's video, we're going to answer this exact question. We're going to examine the NBA's group of 10 best players from various different years and compare them to today's. Before this video starts, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Before we get too far, I think it's best if we explore the 2022 top 10 stats and achievements to get a better understanding of how good this list is. The 2022 top 10 players consists of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, LeBron James, Ja Morant, and Devin Booker. This top 10 is really stacked. Although it may not look super historically great looking at it now, give this list about 10 years or so, and they might just be the greatest group of 10 players to play at once of all time. You have LeBron James, who's a consensus top 2 player of all time. He has the greatest longevity of all time and has countless awards to his name. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who right now, at the age of 27, already has a ring, 2 MVPs, a Finals MVP, and is the best player in the league. You have Nikola Jokic, who's already won 2 MVPs. You have Steph Curry, who has 4 rings, one of the greatest players of all time, and the most influential player in terms of gameplay. You have Kevin Durant, who has 2 Finals MVPs, is considered probably a top 3 scorer of all time, and one of the most unguardable players of all time. The other 5 guys on this list, Luka, Embiid, Tatum, Morant, and Booker, although they haven't achieved that much now, their potential for all-time greatness is through the roof. Luka has put up unreal, insane, even GOAT potential numbers in his first 5 seasons, and he's led his Mavericks to the Western Conference Finals with virtually no help. Jason Tatum led his Boston Celtics to the NBA Finals, beating the former NBA champions in the Bucks and a really stacked Miami Heat team. Ja Morant looks like the next Derrick Rose, but without knee problems. Devin Booker led the Phoenix Suns all the way to the finals in 2021. In 2017, when he was just 20 years old, he dropped 70 points in one game, joining only 6 other players to achieve that: Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, David Robinson, David Thompson, and Kobe Bryant. Joel Embiid has kind of gotten unlucky, although he probably should have at least 1 MVP and maybe even a finals appearance by now. Injuries have held this incredible talent back. Okay, now let's look at some top 10s from other eras. While scouring through the internet to look through the stats, accomplishments, awards, and data from every year in the NBA of every great player of that season, I handpicked some of the most notable top 10s from the history of the NBA. From 1960 to 2022, I handpicked 5 lists of top 10 players to discuss with you. Some of these top 10s are historically great. Others are actually the polar opposite. The first one we're going to discuss right now is the 1975 and 76 season. Although every top 10 player from every year is at least really good, this list is relatively bad compared to other years. The 1975 and 76 top 10 consists of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Rick Barry, George McGinnis, Bob McAdoo, Dave Cowens, Dave Bing, Pete Maravich, Tiny Archibald, Elvin Hayes, and John Havlicek. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is obviously the best player in this list. He was in the middle of his prime during this time. We all know him as the 3rd best player of all time. Next we have Rick Barry, who was really just a scoring machine back in his day and is known for his granny style free throws. Next we have George McGinnis. He was in the middle of his prime during this time. He was a really good power forward for the Pacers, putting up almost 30 and 14 in his best year. Moving on, we have Bob McAdoo, who was also in the middle of his prime during this year. He averaged about 31 and 12 for Buffalo this year. Next, we have Dave Cowens, who was a really impactful big man for Boston around this time. He was around his prime also during this time, averaging around 17 and 13 a game. We have Dave Bing, who was a quality point guard for the Pistons. We have Pete Maravich, who was a scoring machine at the shooting guard for the Jazz. We have Tiny Archibald, who's really, really tall. He was really good at scoring the ball for only being 6'1". In his best year, he averaged 34 points and 11 assists. We have Elvin Hayes, who was a solid big that averaged around 21 and 12 for his career. And finally, we have John Havlicek, who was a really good 3-and-D guard, or maybe I should say 2-and-D guard, playing for Boston. During his time playing with the Bill Russell Celtics, he was one of the best sixth men of all time. And that's the 1976 top 10 for you. Besides Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in his prime that dominated the rest of the league, no one else really stands out at you from this year. I mean, sure, you have some really good players on here, but you don't have any truly great players on here, if that makes any sense to you guys. Like, none of these other 9 guys really even come close to a top 20 list of all time. Kareem has almost 5 more win shares than anyone else in this list. Kareem has 17, and the next closest to him is Bob McAdoo at 12.3. Like, look at these two teams compared side to side. We'll get into the stats later. Clearly, 2022 is miles ahead. Now we're going to move on to some of the stronger top 10s of this video. The first historically elite top 10 we're going to talk about today is the 1995 and 96 list. This rank consists of Michael Jordan, Shaq, Scottie Pippen, Penny Hardaway, Karl Malone, David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, John Stockton, Gary Payton, and Grant Hill. Michael Jordan really needs no explanation here. Undisputed top 2 player of all time. You have a young Shaq and Penny Hardaway going insane in Orlando. You have the John Stockton and Karl Malone duo in Utah, dominating the league with their pick-and-roll offense. You have Scottie Pippen, the Bulls' number 2 guy, no explanation needed. You have David Robinson, one of the best bigs in the league in San Antonio, still in his prime in this year. Hakeem Olajuwon had just came off of back-to-back championships the prior 2 years, being their number 1 option. Gary Payton won Defensive Player of the Year and was a powerhouse for Seattle. And you have Grant Hill, who was in the middle of his young and short prime before injuries took the best of him. I mean, just take a look at this top 10. The talent you have here is so consistent. You have no real weaknesses on this list. You have 2 or 3 lock top 10 players of all time in here, and several top 20 players. The next historically great year we have is the 2003 and 2004 top 10. This list consists of Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, Jermaine O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, Tracy McGrady, and Peja Stojakovic. Kevin Garnett won the MVP with Minnesota this season. No real discussion here. Kobe and Shaq were still killing it in LA, coming off a three-peat the 3 years before. The other O'Neal, Jermaine, was one of the best bigs in the league for Indiana. LeBron James was a rookie this season and was still a top 10 player this year. Really think about that. No player has ever been a top 10 player in the league for 20 years except LeBron. Maybe you can make the case for Kareem, but he declined a lot more in his later years than LeBron. Anyways, you have Dirk, who was in the middle of his prime with Dallas. You have Tim Duncan, who was also in the middle of his prime with San Antonio. You have Jason Kidd, who was the best point guard in the league for New Jersey. You have Peja Stojakovic, who was the main offensive motor for Sacramento. And finally, you have Tracy McGrady, who averaged a very impressive 28 points a game that season. This list is truly great. You have 4 top 10 players of all time and several top 25 players. Another very consistent list. The final list we have is from 1987 and 88, which I think may be the best of this video. Just hear this list out. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Karl Malone, Hakeem Olajuwon, John Stockton, Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, Dominique Wilkins, and Patrick Ewing. This list is stacked. Once again, you have MJ, no explanation. You have Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, the 2 dynasty leaders of this era. You once again see the Malone and Stockton duo in Utah. You have a young Hakeem Olajuwon going insane in Houston. Charles Barkley, a first-team All-NBA player dominating in Philadelphia. You have Clyde Drexler, Dominique Wilkins, and Patrick Ewing, who are all the number 1 options on really great teams. This list is spectacular. You have 3 arguable top 6 players on here. And almost all of this list would make a top 30 players of all time. That wraps up all the lists I'll show you for a first. All of these lists are great, but how do they compare to each other? Which one is truly the best? We're gonna get into that right now, actually. We're going to compare all of these lists we just previously mentioned. We're going to compare the 1996, 2004, 1988, and 2022 top 10s against each other. We're going to use various stats, achievements, and awards to determine this. In this competition, we're going to value both a player's performance during that season and also their career achievements as a player. The best of both worlds. We're going to use win shares per 48, PER, and points per game of that season, as well as all NBA first teams, MVPs, and championships of their entire career. A series of well-balanced metrics that determine a player's specific season, along with their career achievements. The winner of each category will get 4 points, second place will get 3, third will get 2, and fourth will get 1. The year with the most points will win. We'll start it off with win shares for 48. This stat is an estimated amount of wins a player has contributed per 48 minutes. As we can see here, the 1996 top 10 wins this category by a slim margin of 0.08. At second place in this category is 1998, followed by 2022 and then 2004. The next category we have is PER, or player efficiency rating, pretty much a measurement of per minute production for a player. The 2022 top 10 wins this category with an average of 26.1 per player. This kind of makes sense. Being in an analytical era, teams and players care way more about their advanced stats than ever. Anyways, 1988 takes second with 24.7, followed by 1996, then 2004. The third and final specific season stat we're going to look at is points per game. A pretty simple and straightforward stat. 2022 dominates this stat, winning with a margin of plus 2.7, with an average score of 28.2 per player. 1998 is second, along with 1996 at third, and then 2004 at last. The next series of stats we're going to look at are longevity and career favoring categories. They reward consistent greatness in a player's career rather than just one great season. First, we're going to get into all NBA first team appearances. Leading this metric is 2004 with a combined 58 appearances. It makes sense with guys like Kobe, LeBron, Shaq, and Duncan. In second place is 1988, which came short 3 appearances with 55. Following them is 1998, then 2022. The next award we have is MVPs. 1988 wins this category with 15 combined award wins. 2022 surprisingly comes in at second place. In 2004 and 1996 tie at third with 10. Our final category we have is championships. 2004 and 1996 both finish at first with 21 rings. 2004 and 1996 both finish at first with a combined 21 rings. 1988 finishes at second with 16, and to no surprise, 2022 finishes at last at 11. And this concludes the comparisons of the 4 chosen years. As we can see, the 1988 top 10 won the competition with 18 points, meaning that they are the best top 10 team of all time. The 1996 top 10 took second place with 16 points. 2022 came in third place with 15 points, and 2004 came in last with 13 points. Now, let's look at where these years scored all their points. In the first half, with the first 3 specific season stats, 2022 came in first with 10 points. 1988 came in second with 9 points. 1996 in third with 8, and 2004 in fourth with 3. This just really goes to show you how productive, efficient, and overall talented our generation of players is. In the second half, with the career stats, as we can see in the chart here, 2004 won with 10 points, 1988 took a second place with 9 points, 1996 took third with 8 points, and 2022 took fourth place with an underwhelming 3 points. If you really think about it though, it's kind of expected that 2022 would be last in this category. Although you have players like LeBron, KD, and Curry, who've all had many years to rack up their accomplishments, you have several young superstars who are just entering their prime. They haven't had enough time to build up their basketball resume yet. About 2 weeks ago, we saw ESPN post their top 10 players in the game right now on Twitter. It's undeniable that these players are beyond talented, with several well-established superstars combined with even more young stars on the rise. The amount of talent in the league right now is insane. Who would have thought that our best players in the game right now could go toe-to-toe with some of the most well-known greats in this game? Who would have thought a near 40-year-old LeBron, a fat dude from Slovenia, and a 6'2" point guard could compete with pretty much the dream team, the Michael Jordan Bulls era, and an early 2000s era that had the best bigs of all time? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like these.